Welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. I'm so glad you decided to stop by. Today I'm doing another reaction to a song by Rin because I am falling in love with this artist and I'm too impatient to do other songs because I want to be able to listen to his music, and as you all may know, I refuse to post a reaction that's not a legit first listen, first watch, etc. reaction. So, quick disclaimer, this video is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only, and if talk of eating disorders or disordered eating in any capacity could be triggering or harmful to you, please skip this video. Your own well-being is much more important. Today I'm doing Dominoes by Rin because so many of you requested that and mentioned that I might resonate with it quite a bit given my eating disorder recovery and my 20 years of struggling with that. So I wanted to do The Hunger before this one so we could have a little bit of a break of fun, but now I'm gonna give it a try. Maybe it's because I have a tendency to want to cause myself pain, but it's also very cathartic, so I'm a little nervous, but I'm also really eager to get into this one. So without further ado, let's do this.
Oh, you build this like dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling. Oh, you build this like dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling.
I'm digging this vibe already.
You build us up just to knock us back down. Funny how you act surprised when we hit the ground. We're like,
hold on a sec. Okay, so that vibe there is super bouncy, super heavy. I'm like, yeah, this isn't gonna be a super emotional song. This isn't gonna get into heavy stuff. But then he decides to say, you build us up just to knock us back down. Funny how you act surprised when we hit the ground. Dominoes, you literally set them up solely to knock them down again. So you seem like you're building us up like dominoes, and you just keep setting us up only to throw us back down, only to knock us back down again. Man, I thought we were getting a little bit lighter here. I knew the subject matter was serious, but I thought that general vibe was gonna take us a little bit lighter. But oh, he's getting into it, and I'm here for it. I just wasn't quite expecting it, given that little beat there at the beginning. And since the analogy of dominoes is just to put them up to knock you back down, it's talking about, you know, being built up, whether it's by the industry, whether it's by other people, only to then hate on you, only to take you back down, only to attack you, only to try to bring you down in every other way. In other words, there are people who just try to build you up so that they can take you down and feel better about themselves. There's probably a whole lot more to this, so let's let the song go.
funny how you act surprised when we hit the ground. We're like dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling. So bleed me of all my self-belief. My smile shows all my insecurity.
I can't. Oh my gosh. I was trying to add commentary there, but I'm a little speechless because that was just... So bleed me of all my self-belief, meaning, for me specifically, if I were relating my own situation to that line, bleed me of all my self-belief, my beliefs about myself are lies that my eating disorder has told me for 20 years now. And saying bleed me of all my self-belief, so get all of that out of me, get all of this negative self-belief out of me. My smile shows all my insecure teeth. So obviously the insecurities there is the word, but the play on words, that insecure teeth. And I can just say I relate to that on a really personal level, and I can't believe I'm about to say this in a video where people can now be looking at my teeth while I'm reacting, but I used to have teeth that I was proud of, that I would smile with my teeth all the time. The combination of malnutrition and Lyme disease and other chronic illnesses have made that very much not the case, and genetics a little bit in general, but also my smile does show all my insecure teeth, and that seems like a little cheesy line there, maybe that cheesy wordplay, but I'm a fan of cheesy wordplay, and I actually don't think it's cheesy. I think it's super powerful, and I think that he's also kind of playing into that stereotype about how a lot of people in Britain, there's that stereotype about how people have bad teeth. There are bad teeth everywhere in every country, so I'm not saying that that is accurate, but I do think that it would be stupid to think that he isn't also throwing that meaning in there given where he's from, because he's all about throwing in as many meanings into the lines as he can.
My smile shows all my insecurity. In the kingdom of Photoshop, kings and queens will never feel happy with ourselves, but insecurity sells. Dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling.
Okay, he's getting into the chorus again, so just very quickly I want to touch on those last two lines of the first verse. In a kingdom of Photoshop kings and queens, meaning, I'm assuming what he means here, it's society in general, society, diet culture, the fact that all of these celebrities that we're told to aspire to look like, they're not even real. All of their bodies on magazine covers and things like that, they're all Photoshopped. They don't even look like themselves. Like, in real life, they don't look like they look on magazine covers. Likewise, in the age of social media, most people don't look like what you see them as on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, on wherever you're hanging out online, because they're using filters, because they're using Photoshop, because they feel like that is now expected, largely because we were fed that, no pun intended, but I'm going with it, we were fed that lie from society and from diet culture and the beauty industry that these literal fake images are what we should really aspire to, and that's just, first of all, not possible. Secondly, since it's not possible, that next line there where he says, we'll never feel happy with ourselves because we're always being confronted with these images, and then he goes into, but insecurity sells. Oh my goodness. You want to get me on one here. You want to get me on one here for a minute. Okay, just let me take a beat and gather my thoughts. All right, thoughts gathered. But insecurity sells. Do you realize that in the United States alone last year, the weight loss industry, the diet culture industrial complex, was an almost $4 billion industry in 2022? Almost $4 billion. $4 billion. Obviously, insecurity sells. If it didn't, they wouldn't be making $4 billion. They want to do every single thing they can. Now I see what he's talking about with the Dominoes. He's talking about society and culture like that, building you up, trying to make you feel like, oh, you can look like this if you just XYZ on this plan, if you just eat this, if you just do this exercise, if you just whatever here, to literally shrink yourself and your personality and your life, because that's what happens when you fall prey to that. Because as long as we're keeping you insecure and making you feel like you're not enough, we're gonna make money off of you. And it honestly breaks my heart. I see so many people so eagerly posting things online like, look at this new program. And I'm not going to say any name brands here. A lot of them are MLMs. A lot of them are just diet culture in general. Look at this program here. Look at this thing that I'm doing. I'm so excited. And I look at them and I think, man, I'm really sad for you. Obviously, I'm dealing with an eating disorder myself, so I have my own level of dealing with that kind of crap. But I look at people who are so stuck into that and who either are really oblivious to the fact that it can't make them happy, or even worse, in my mind, have bought into the fact that losing weight can make you happy. I say worse because I have bought into that as part of my eating disorder, and I know it's not true, but it's a lie that the disorder, who, as we've said before, is a lying liar who lies and cannot tell the truth. It's a lie that it tells me day in and day out that I'll never be happy with myself. Therefore, while I don't spend money on diet industry products because that would be counterproductive for me and I refuse to support that industry at this point in my life, there are plenty of people that do and who will continue to do that time after time after time after time, thinking they'll be happy, thinking they will not be insecure, and actually they get even more insecure because those things don't work, and if they do, quote, work, they only work for the time that you're doing them, and as soon as you stop using them, guess what? Stops working. I'm saying work in quotes every time if you're not looking at the screen because diets actually really don't work long term, period.
Security sells. Dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling. Oh, you build us like dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling. You build us up just to knock us back down. Funny how you act surprised when we hit the ground. We're like dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling.
Okay, so now that we've got a little bit more context for the chorus there. Society builds us up, selling us these lies that if we just do this product, just follow this diet, just do fill in the blank here, we're gonna feel better about ourselves, we'll be built up, we'll be feeling great. But they're ultimately only doing that to knock us back down because even diet culture and the diet and weight loss industry itself worldwide knows that its solutions are very temporary, do not work long term, so they know that if they suck you into one, it's eventually gonna stop, quote, working, and they're gonna be able to sell you another one if you don't find a way to break out of that. And that's why it's so sad to me because so many people, myself included, in past years have fallen prey to that, and it has played a major part in the development of, or at least the perpetuation of, eating disorders for millions. I am a firm believer that no one's eating disorder is solely based on diet culture and celebrities that are photoshopped, but it definitely would be naive and downright ignorant and stupid to say that it doesn't play a role, because I literally lived through the, quote, heroin chic phase of the 90s and early 2000s, and all I'm gonna say is I wish that Kate Moss had never been interviewed and quoted. If you know, you know. So I also wanted to quickly say the chorus here, you saw me kind of doing that with the chorus, with the beat of the chorus. The feel of this, the beat of the chorus, I like that it feels like you're almost breathing, like your heart's beating. Sometimes I do that just in response to the music without really noticing it until after the fact. It just kind of feels like the music, the beat of the song, both his voice and the instrumental just feels like a heartbeat almost. So you can not only feel that he's putting his heart and soul into the song, but it kind of helped calm my own a little bit. And that part about funny how you act surprised when we hit the ground, it is funny because once again, they sell you a quote solution that then won't work, so they sell you another quote answer and solution that then won't work, so that it just continues and goes on and on and on. Yet they act surprised every time, like, oh, it didn't work for you? Are you serious? It works for everyone. Newsflash, it doesn't work for everyone. And then specifically, like when someone falls into the trap of an eating disorder and they're like, hey, guess what? This really kind of triggered and set off that cascade of illness for me, sent me into the spiral of disorder. They're like, oh no, not us. We couldn't have done that. Our product's safe. Our product would never cause a literal fatal life-threatening disorder for a person, except that's exactly what it does when they knock you down and you hit the ground because you have failed by their standards, which are BS anyway. Their standards are bullcrap. Getting a little heated. But I really love the way he's presenting this message. I love the concept of dominoes. It's just such a perfect metaphor.
Funny how you act surprised when we hit the ground. We're like dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling. I hide my head under the sheets, 'cause how can I face a world that ridicules the weak? Where beauty is sold on the shelves, forbid that we find it in ourselves. And now I'm broke, it don't come cheap.
Gosh, I was so tempted to pause it after the first two lines there. Wanted to at least get that verse in. Give me a second. I should have been prepared. I was very much not prepared to wipe the tears today. Oh, so that verse 2, I hide my head under the sheets, because how can I face a world that ridicules the weak? And again, I think that is both calling back to the diet industry will tell you you're weak if you give up on their plans, which don't work anyway. You're not giving up. You are choosing yourself. If you are not choosing the diet industry, you're making a choice for yourself and against the diet industry. But they definitely do criticize the weak. They tell you you're weak for not being able to starve yourself, for not being able to shrink yourself. Oh, you must be weak. It must just be a lack of willpower. And also never the case. Also, never the actual case. And I also think that he's maybe adding in a little bit of double meaning there to how can I face a world that ridicules the weak? When you're dealing with chronic illness, there's yet another layer of difficulty when you're told to conform to these societal standards of beauty and the thin ideal and all of that, because chronic illness ravages your body. It can cause extreme weight loss, it can cause extreme weight gain, it can cause any type of bodily changes that are aside from weight specifically. And I think that when he's talking about how can I face a world that ridicules the weak, it's also maybe talking about people who are dealing with some of that extra layer of stuff too, because they are literally physically weak. And I can't tell you the number of times that I have literally been told, just do XYZ, follow this diet program, follow this nutritional program, which is always a bunch of bullcrap, and then your chronic illnesses will heal. And here's the deal. Nutrition is important. For someone in eating disorder recovery, I'm very aware of how important nutrition is. Even if I struggle to really embrace it, I know it's important. And I am working like heck to get to the place where mine is completely stable and solid. However, some of my chronic conditions are literal genetic illnesses, meaning by definition, they cannot be cured. So no, your 20 minutes of yoga in this specific time of morning facing this direction with this song playing is not going to cure my genetic chronic illnesses. Your green celery juice is not going to magically heal everything that's wrong with me. But as he says there, beauty is sold on the shelves. So that's, of course, makeup and beauty products like that, but also health products, health and wellness, which do have a purpose, some of them, but some of them are just downright scams. And at the very least, they don't actually do everything that they claim to be able to do. They're not a panacea that just heals everything and that makes you perfectly beautiful according to society. But he's saying, we literally, beauty is sold on the shelves. Forbid that we find it in ourselves, because we're always just told, nope, you're not enough. You're not enough. Or one of the lies that eating disorder likes to throw at me a lot, and I've heard other people say similar things, you are too much of not enough. You are too much and not enough, and you are too much of not enough. That's also a Silverchair song, by the way. If you're not familiar with it, it's a really great one if you want to check it out. Too much of not enough. But that's the lie that I hear all the time. I'm both too much, meaning people can't handle the real me. I'm also not enough, meaning I'm not enough for people to want to be around the real me. And I didn't think I was going to get choked up saying that sentence. But we're just constantly told that we are wrong, that our very existence is wrong, that our body, that our personality, that everything about us, specifically our body in the context of this song, is wrong. And that is so not the case, and it keeps us stuck in this cycle of perpetual shame where we keep buying products and continue to buy products and then feel like failures for them not succeeding and then continuing to buy more products. And he says, and now I'm broke, it don't come cheap. Literally. Like, it will drain your bank account, and it will also drain your mental and physical energy. It will also drain your personality, because if you are always trying to, quote, fix yourself with makeup, with beauty products, with health and wellness products, with supplements, with stuff like that, which may not actually be able to deliver on any of the promises they're taking. Remember, that's very rare that something can actually be a panacea. I haven't really come across one yet, and I've been through the ringer and tried a whole gamut of stuff. But I think he's also talking about they're just being mentally and physically exhausted and broke and depleted of energy there. Like, this doesn't come cheap. I'm still not there. I still can't find it in myself. I still have to buy this stuff. I've bought all this stuff, and now I'm completely broke. I've spent all this time and mental and physical energy on this, and I just don't have any more energy to spend. I'm broke. I am depleted of energy. It doesn't come cheap, both money-wise and soul-wise, personality-wise, because when you're stuck in all of that stuff, it literally sucks the personality out of you. And I'm saying this as someone who, for the better part of 2022, actually on into 2023, I didn't think that I was ever going to have my personality back because my eating disorder had definitely stolen it. And it's not till your all's comments have been coming in on these Ren reactions that I've realized it's apparently there. You guys are somehow connecting with this in the best overwhelming way. And I just wanted to take a second here to let you know that anyone who has taken time to share that you've been able to resonate or connect with any of these, thank you. Thank you for letting me know that my personality actually does show through and that I actually have one, because that's something I've been fighting to get back now for over 1.5 years since this last relapse started in 2021. All right, let's get back to the chorus.
And now I'm broke, it don't come cheap. Oh, you built this like dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling. Oh, you built this like dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling. You build us up just to knock us back down. Funny how you act surprised when we hit the ground. We're like dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling. Araya was the most beautiful girl in this world. She shined like diamonds and rubies and pearls. But then, as soon as she turned 13, she forgot just how bright that it was that she gleamed. Stuck in the material world of magazines that glamorize fake and Photoshop beauty queens. Top 10 beauty tips making her feel inadequate. For the first time in her life, she felt ugly.
God, you guys weren't kidding. You guys weren't kidding. This song hits so close to home. Son of a gun. Before I get into the analysis of the lyrics there, I want to point out, kind of like in The Hunger where I mentioned he does some really cool things with his delivery to fit the lines in there, but not in a forced way, in a way that's really masterfully done. He did that with the line there, that next to last line that said, top 10 beauty tips making her feel inadequate. So like that, making her feel, I love the way that he put that in there, that turn of phrase to get that line to fit in and to get the rhyme at the end to just hit so perfectly. But let's talk about this verse. So he's talking about a girl here who was the most beautiful girl in the world. And I think he's just using that as an explanation to say she was a really beautiful girl. There wasn't actually anything wrong with her because guess what? If you're yourself, you have natural inherent beauty no matter what this world is telling you. But then he goes and says she shined like diamonds and rubies and pearls. But as soon as she turned the number after 12, bear with me on this. My OCD really latches onto that number. It's really hard for me to say that number. I'm being just really honest and transparent here because I'm working on it, but I'm not to the point where I can say it. So the number in between 12 and 14, but as soon as she turned the year after 12, she forgot just how bright it was that she gleamed. Stuck in a material world of magazines that glamorize the fake and Photoshop beauty queens, top 10 beauty tips making her feel inadequate. For the first time in her life, she felt ugly. I can't even tell you. I was 14. And I literally have the journal entry that I wrote on the day where I very first had those thoughts. The very first time in my life where I thought, there is nothing good about me. I'm wrong. I need to change. And I can change my body. That's what I can control. Spoiler, I could end up controlling it. That's why I still have an eating disorder 20 years later. It also really pains me because it was hard enough growing up with this stuff in the time that I was growing up as a child, and that was before social media. It hurts my heart so much to think about all of these young girls and boys, but he's talking about a girl in this instance here, but literally just all of these literal kids that are on social media that are seeing these images that are possibly even more photoshopped than just the magazines themselves. Plus the magazines still also exist. There is so much more even of an influx of these fake images making them feel inadequate, making them feel unworthy, making them feel like they are not okay as they are. And it just, Again, I don't think the beauty industry, I don't think models, I don't think magazines and all of that are the sole cause of eating disorders, but I also know that eating disorders were very much less prevalent overall in society before all of those things became as big as they are, and social media is only making it worse. And there are so many young kids on there that are starting with this stuff, developing full-blown eating disorders at 6, 7, 8 years old, and that's just not okay. It's just not okay. It's not okay in a world where we should know better, and so many of us do know better. We're just drowned out by all the people that are still pushing these lies, and still pushing shame, and still pushing not enough, not enough, not enough, too much of not enough. Go shrink yourself. Oh man.
Top 10 beauty tips making her feel inadequate. For the first time in her life, she felt ugly. So Araya stopped eating to lose weight. She spent her dinner money on some makeup for her face. But no matter how much she lost or how much she bought, she was never good enough, or so she thought. Araya felt she could never be.
Again, I relate to that verse a little more than I'd like to admit. Stopped eating to lose weight. One of the first things that happened to me was I thought, you know what, I'm at school during the day. I can start skipping out on some of my lunch. And then I would save that lunch money to buy stuff like this. I literally did that when I was a teenager. I literally would save the lunch money that I didn't spend. Sometimes I would save it to buy Christmas presents for my family, but a lot of times I would spend it on stuff like magazines, on these lists of stuff to get diet tips, to get tricks like that of course, again, never really work, but I was sucked into the abyss so deeply. And as the verse continues to say, it doesn't matter how much she lost. Now, the very obvious thing here is talking about weight, so I want to quickly touch on the possible other meaning. It doesn't matter how much you've lost money-wise, how much you have spent and paid for things like that, paid for products, paid for magazines. Also doesn't matter how much she'd lost of herself, of her personality, but specifically here, doesn't matter how much weight you lose, it will never be quote, enough. It will never be enough to satisfy your eating disorder. It will never be enough to satisfy diet culture. It will never be enough for society as a whole to say, hey, guess what? Yeah, you're enough now. You're okay. If they're giving you the messages that you're not that, you will never lose enough weight to get to the point where you feel accepted by society and feel accepted by yourself, because if you get to that point, chances are you're dealing with some disordered eating, if not a full-blown eating disorder yourself, and it's never enough. It's never enough. The goalposts always move. If the eating disorder has told you, here's the weight that you need to get down to, and then I'll let you stop, it's not gonna let you stop. Don't fall for that. Don't fall for that, because it's never enough. You reach that, it just shifts the goalpost down a little bit further. That's just how it is. And I really like that he ended that verse. He said she was never good enough, or so she thought. So he's pointing out there that it was her perception of herself based on the messages from society, based on the messages from diet culture, but that she actually still was a very worthy person, that there was other people that could see that in her, but she is really struggling to see any of it in herself at all. I don't know if it's a story that he is based on someone he knows personally, or if he's just tapping into what I know is his awesome storytelling ability. Either way, this is extremely powerful, but if you do happen to know if this is about a specific person or someone that he knew even tangentially, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, it's a masterpiece no matter what.
She was never good enough, or so she thought. Araya felt she could never be loved. She started cutting her wrists and hiding her scars with gloves. At 16, an anorexic beauty queen, she collapses in a puddle of her tears and blood, cause she never felt enough. She never felt enough.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, I just keep pausing and crying for a minute. It's taken me a while to get my composure here. This is hard. This is a hard one. It's a really great one and a really excellent one, but it's hard to get through. I will say I'm very fortunate that self-harm was not something that was like a major issue for me, but very much eating disorders themselves are also a form of self-harm, because you're literally killing yourself in the name of trying to shrink yourself due to this disorder that has taken over your brain. Don't want to go too in-depth into that side of things because I don't want this to get flagged by YouTube, but so you know, she started doing that and hiding her scars with gloves. At 16, an anorexic beauty queen, she collapses in a puddle of her tears and blood because she never felt enough. She never felt enough. And I remember one time specifically, this was right when I had first fallen down the spiral and was at a really low point, a couple weeks before I had to go to treatment for the first time in 2004. I was in one of our church programs, and I was playing this one role. The whole youth group was part of it, and I played this role of this girl who was supposed to be like walking around playing this airhead type character in our Christmas production. And I remember that night, as I was doing that, I tripped and fell on one of the stairs. And it wasn't because I wasn't paying attention. It wasn't because there were stairs there. It wasn't anything like that. It's because I I hadn't nourished myself enough to have the energy to do that. And I've lost a lot of memories from that time in my life. But of course, the things like that have been burned into my brain. And that line there, collapses in a puddle of your tears and blood. No, I wasn't crying in that instance. I wasn't bleeding in that instance, but very much inwardly, I was bleeding because I was hurting. I'm also pretty sure my parents and I had a fight that evening before I went to the performance because I didn't want to eat what my mom had put in front of me. And she literally sat there and was like, "Oh, have this, a little bit. Just a little bit of it." I'm like, "Nope, not going to." My poor parents. All came down to never feeling enough, by the way. Never feeling enough, feeling like I needed control, like I couldn't do anything else right. Next verse.
Cause she never felt enough, she never felt enough. Your sellers told this lie that we must buy to keep in touch. We can never buy enough, never buy enough. All the riches in the world can't buy a sense of self-love. Funny how you act surprised when depression's levels rise, when you force feed inadequacy straight into our eyes. Television shows that praise the beautiful people, and talent competitions that just laugh at the feeble.
Oh my gosh. You sell us this lie that we must buy to keep in touch. But we can never really buy enough, never buy enough, which is so true because there's always something new that they're trying to sell you. All the riches in the world can't buy a sense of self-love. Think of the number of celebrities who have come forward, even just in recent years, much less in the previous decades, who eventually came forward about struggling with disordered eating and eating disorders. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Eating disorders do not discriminate. You are not immune, no matter how much money you have. You cannot buy a cure for your eating disorder. You cannot buy enough things to fit this mold of what society wants to then call you enough. Because again, society and the disorder will never tell you that you are enough. It doesn't matter if someone is the richest celebrity in the world. Maybe they have everything. Maybe they even have access to all of the best types of treatment out there. However, money can't buy self-love. It just can't. And a lot of times people fall into the trap of trying to use money to fill that very void, and it is just a recipe for failure and pain and suffering and not success at all. And he brings it kind of back to the chorus concept of funny how you act surprised when depression levels rise, which they have done exponentially so, especially since the pandemic started. I don't remember exactly what year this was released. I think this was released before the pandemic started in 2020, but it was already happening. It's just happened exponentially so since the pandemic that all mental illnesses, eating disorders, depression, everything has exponentially gone up on a slope here in a way that we have not seen it before in society. And so many people aren't able to get the care that they need. And that line there where he says, where you force feed inadequacy straight into our eyes. First of all, that line kind of unsettled me a little bit because the concept of force feeding is something that, specifically as a teenager, I felt like I didn't really have control over choosing treatment and things like that. Ultimately, I'm glad that the treatment centers I was fortunate enough to go to did save my life physically, and I do not regret any of that. But even now, as an adult, I feel like a lot of this recovery process is me really trying to find a way to want it for myself, but then by nature, I feel like I'm sort of force feeding myself, which, side note, can actually be kind of a superpower if you can master that to use in recovery and force feed yourself when you don't have an appetite, when you know you still need to nourish your body. But the metaphor here that he's using, where you force feed inadequacy straight into our eyes, whether that's on the cover of magazines, whether that's on television, whether that's on social media, you're getting those images constantly straight into your eyes. It's reminding you, hey, you're inadequate, you're inadequate, you're inadequate. And then he goes on specifically to say television shows that praise the beautiful people. Hello, all the reality shows. Hello, all the housewife shows. Hello, all the beach shows. Hello, all the sex appeal reality type shows. Hello, all the dating shows like that. That's all I'm going to say there, because then he goes on to talk about talent competitions that just laugh at the feeble. And anybody else thinking of Simon Cowell right now? Because I know there have been plenty of shows since Idol, and he's even done other shows himself. He has X Factor. I don't remember if he still does or not, but he did for a long time after he left Idol. I just think of him specifically in the early seasons of American Idol, though. When people came on that were weak, that were not what he thought was the picture of what an American Idol should look like, he literally laughed in their faces. One of my favorite artists of all time, Mandisa, she's amazing. She is so amazing. She ended up going fairly far. Before they told her to go to Hollywood, he made this statement to her, and this ties into this message so perfectly, because he said, well, guess we're gonna need a bigger stage in Hollywood. He literally said that to her. He literally said, I guess we're gonna need a bigger stage because she was in a larger body. He said that on TV, where everyone was seeing it, where I was seeing it while I was dealing with an eating disorder. He said that to where these young children who are watching this family show with their families are getting that message drilled into their brains, even if it's not directed right to them, because they're witnessing someone who's supposed to be this authority and judging someone, which, by by the way, let's not even get into the fact that Simon Cowell is judging people. Let's not go there, because I'm sure that man has plenty of things that we can pick apart, and that would take an entire video of its own. But one of the other things that I'm thinking of here is like Susan Boyle. A lot of people were super surprised at how amazing she was in her audition for, was it Britain's Got Talent, I think? And she's great. She's absolutely amazing. But the first reaction when she came out, before people heard her sing and heard how wonderful she truly is, they were laughing at her because she didn't fit the stereotype of what they thought a singer should be or should look like. That kind of stuff just infuriates me, and that's honestly, it's happened more times on American Idol alone than I can count. I don't watch all of the other shows, haven't over the years. Every so often I'll turn one on, but like, yeah, they laugh at all of the people who don't fit their ideal. It's honestly kind of like a Mean Girls Club in TV form. Jeez.
Television shows that praise the beautiful people, and talent competitions that just laugh at the feeble. Billboards, magazines, people turn to plasticine, molded like a factory. We're growing up to fear, feeling ugly. It's lunacy, a knife in the community. Cause insecurity breeds judgment, judgment breeds hate, no unity. And hierarchy based upon aesthetics is what makes a kid in school get bullied for genetics.
Billboards, magazines, people turn to plasticine, molded like a factory. We're growing up to fear feeling ugly. It's lunacy. Billboards, magazines, people made of plastic, trying to convert everyone to this same plastic image of what the thin ideal beauty is, even when there is a minuscule percentage of the world population that can even get close to what they're saying. And even those people who have those naturally very slim bodies don't have the bodies you're seeing of themselves on the magazines, because they even Photoshop that. They even Photoshop the people who are already naturally and genetically predisposed to being a lot smaller. That's just the way that it is. They try to make everyone, he said, molded like a factory. We're growing up to fear feeling ugly. It's lunacy. They're trying to make everyone fit the same mold and saying that if you fall outside this very narrow definition of beauty and what's okay and enough, then you have to be fearful because then you're ugly, and that's the worst possible thing you could be. It's the worst possible thing you could be. And he follows that line and says it's lunacy. It is absolute lunacy. I can think of a lot of things that are worse than being, quote, ugly in the eyes of society. And I use quotes there, and I want to emphasize the quotes there. So from such a very young age, you're literally just, again, being fed this lie that not fitting this one very specific vision, not this one very specific mold, often a very white, upper middle class, Eurocentric model. That's what this is based on a lot of times. It is then tried to be applied to all ethnicities, all classes worldwide. It's just not possible. It is absolute lunacy. And it goes on to say, a knife in the community because insecurity breeds judgment. Judgment breeds hate, no unity. Again, it is a knife in the community. It wedges itself in there because if you're insecure, you might try to pick apart other people, or if someone else is insecure, they might start attacking you and chipping away at your metaphorical armor that you're trying to wear to shield yourself from whatever life is thrown at you. And eating disorder specifically, even if you are a person who your very deep values of your heart and your soul are not judgment towards other people, the eating disorder will make you engage in some of that judgment because it's the only way that it has to try to make itself feel better. And in doing so, it will also make sure that you know you're a horrible human for having those thoughts, but it's still going to make you have the thoughts, the comparative thoughts, the thoughts of judgment. And then all of that does is breed hate and division, and definitely not unity.
Cause insecurity breeds judgment, judgment breeds hate, no unity. And hierarchy based upon aesthetics is what makes a kid in school get bullied for genetics. And I felt so ugly growing up. The way that I look sometimes got me beaten up. I mean, what the
my gosh. And hierarchy based upon aesthetics is what makes a kid in school get bullied for genetics. Not going to spend too much on that. He made that pretty obvious what it means. Hierarchy of society based on the way that people look. People that are, quote, thin and small automatically get assumed that they are the picture of perfect health and they must be great, which a lot of times they're dealing with disordered eating and or chronic physical illnesses that have destroyed their bodies, and you wouldn't necessarily know that if you don't know them, but society always paints that as the ideal. Meanwhile, at the bottom end of the hierarchy, you have people make horribly, wrongfully off-base assumptions about people who are in larger bodies and who are at higher weights, assuming that, oh, you only got there because you're lazy, or because you don't exercise, or because of this or that, when really, one, genetics, big part of it, which he goes on to say then in the next line, kids get bullied for genetics, whether that's weight, whether that's just their physical appearance in any way, whether it's their teeth, which he mentioned that insecure teeth line towards the beginning. And then at the end of this verse there, he says, and I felt so ugly growing up. The way that I look sometimes got me beaten up. I mean, what the F? I think since he's changed that to an I there and he's not speaking in third person about this story that he's been telling, I think he's bringing Ren in there, saying that even he, maybe it wasn't weight, maybe it was weight, maybe he got bullied for that. I don't know. I haven't read about it, but it seems like he's saying he himself felt so ugly growing up as a victim to all of this society crap that he even got beat up at school sometimes solely for the way that he looked, which no one should ever have to deal with. And kids can be very cruel, especially when society is reinforcing their very wrong assumptions. And then the desperation at the end of that is just like, what do you do with that? Where do you go from that? How do you fix that? How do you change that? Like, what the heck is going on here? How is this the world that we live in?
The way that I look sometimes got me beaten up. I mean, what the sort of culture do we live in when we're defined?
Ooh, okay, we're gonna get back and listen to this whole outro again, but I like the way, as I was talking about in one of the recent songs, I think it was The Hunger actually, the end of the bridge line, he said, I mean, what the F? And then that was actually the beginning of the line of the outro, so what the F sort of culture do we live in? So let's go back to listen to the rest of the outro, but oh my goodness. I love the way that artists can do like part of a sentence there, then carry it to the whole next verse or the next chorus or whatever and continue, it just, I love that kind of stuff.
The way that I look sometimes got me beaten up. I mean, what the sort of culture do we live in when we're defined by the shape of our face, when we're ashamed by the size of our waist, when we're imprisoned by the form that we take? And so we keep buying and spending. That's just how this story goes. You build us up just to knock us back down, and we just keep falling like dominoes.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my... He said it in the end. There's not a whole lot to unpack in those lines because he was pretty straightforward there with his outro. What sort of culture do we live in when we're defined by the shape of our face and ashamed by the size of our waist, and when we're imprisoned by the form that we take? And I want to tell you right now, coming from someone who's dealing with both an eating disorder and chronic illnesses, in more ways than I can count, I feel like a prisoner in this shell of a body, in this shell that is a body that is holding my soul while I'm on this earth. I feel like a prisoner because I feel like the eating disorder itself is a prison. I feel like my chronic illnesses, the fact that I can't control when they act up, when they flare, when they have me completely knocked down for days and weeks on end, that's its own type of prison. Dealing with them both together is its own particular, not only type of prison, but kind of a type of hell on earth to live through, honestly. And that line just really, really struck my heart. When we're imprisoned by the form that we take. Then he ends the song with saying, and so we keep buying and spending. That's just how this story goes. You build us up just to knock us down, and we just keep falling like dominoes. Guys, that... Oh my word. Oh my word! That was... I don't have words. Oh my word, because I can't think of better words. Like, it's so true. Because we keep buying and spending and keep buying and spending and keep trying to fix ourselves when we don't need fixing, again, by the way, and keep being built up by all of these companies, by all of these broken promises from society, by all of these diet industry ideals and programs and all of this stuff that they promise, never deliver, never deliver, never deliver. By the way, what does that remind you of? Maybe an eating disorder, because it promises the world and it delivers on exactly zero of that. It delivers on nothing that it actually promises you it will deliver on. Like I mentioned in one of the earlier verses, it steals not only your body and your physical health, it steals your mental health. Obviously, it's a mental illness. It steals your personality. It steals your ability to have relationships. It steals your ability to care about anything. For all of 2022, I can't tell you how much apathy I was stuck in solely because my eating disorder was so loud and so strong. It was really keeping me from being able to care about anything else in life. Just being completely transparent here. And I think a lot of us, whether we have diagnosed eating disorders or not, whether we've even really struggled with disordered eating, I think a lot of us can relate to society continually trying to sell us the perfect life, continually trying to sell us the cure, the fix, the insert blank here for whatever your personal situation is, builds you up by making these promises, as Cogsworth on Beauty and the Beast says, is promises you don't intend to keep? Yeah, diet culture never intends to keep the promises. They just want to make you believe that they do so that they can suck you in, and then they'll suck you into the next thing once that first one inevitably fails. And it just keeps going. They just keep building you up only to knock you back down so they can build you back up only to knock you back down again. And I just think that this metaphor of dominoes is so perfect. And I can't believe that I haven't seen anyone really talk about it in this way before. Doesn't surprise me though that Rin is the one that nailed it and absolutely put it into words that, again, I've not really heard other people explain quite the way that he did. And he added that storytelling in there, which I can't wait to get into some more of his like hardcore storytelling stuff, because just this one song alone already shows me what a master he is at storytelling. And I know that there are plenty of others out there that also focus on storytelling that you all have recommended. I can't wait to get into them. I love this one. It was extremely painful. It was really difficult to get through. It was also extremely cathartic and therapeutic, and now I'm glad I have another song I can listen to, because I can't listen to any others that I haven't reacted to yet, which is one of the main reasons I wanted to react to this one, because you all kept telling me how much it would resonate. So thank you as always for recommending that. If you have any other recommendations, leave them in the comments below. If you're enjoying any of these, feel free to subscribe to the channel. As always, no pressure, no obligation. I just love to see you here, and I'm so excited to be taking this journey with you. I will see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves.